I had my mind so confused and messed up, because I was seeking help for one addiction and wind up with another addiction, and it was just too much, and I just felt like life would be better not living it anymore, and I attempted to commit suicide.
Have you or someone you know been affected by mental health or substance use disorder? Well, you are not alone. Welcome to the podcast, Riverfront Talks, Substance Matters. I am Tiffany Moore, the coordinator for the Beaufort County 360 Behavioral Health Task Force. We're going to sit down and have some in-depth conversations with individuals who may have struggled themselves with mental health or substance use disorder, or perhaps know someone who has struggled. Either way, we're going to have some inspiration, motivation, and maybe even some tearjerkers. Welcome to the podcast, Riverfront Talks, Substance Matters. Welcome back, everyone. We are here still at the Mulberry House. This is part 2 of our interview with Wendi Simpkins. We are going to pick up from where we left off. Wendi was telling us about her experience when she first began her treatment. And so we're going to let her continue to explain how that went for her. So, Miss Wendi, we were talking about, you going to using methadone as your MAT, your treatment.
Yes.
And I think when we cut off, you were telling me about the transition from where it stopped you from being addicted to cocaine, but you had become addicted to methadone to the point where you were purchasing it on the street.
Yes.
How long did that go on where you were just buying it off the street and you knew that you had a serious addiction to methadone at this point?
Probably about 6 or 7 months at this time.
Were you finished with your treatment?
I was still doing the treatment but of course they didn't have any idea that I was taking more than what I was supposed to, because when they drug test you, I don't guess there's a way that they can measure how much is in your system. As long as you're passing for the actual
Street
methadone
drugs.
and not any street drugs, they were okay. So.
And it never flagged anything to them
No.
when your dosage kept increasing, or that was normal?
That was normal.
Okay. So at some point you stopped doing the treatment there?
Yes.
Was it that you just opted not to do it anymore, or was it that, I guess I don't know if there was a length of time that you could be involved in the treatment? Like, why did you stop doing the methadone treatment?
My life had just become such a mess with, now the addiction of methadone. And on top of that, I had started drinking and things were just spiraling out of control. And I attempted to commit suicide. I didn't feel like living anymore, and the methadone just had me I had my mind so confused and messed up, because I was seeking help for one addiction and wind up with another addiction, and it was just too much, and I just felt like life would be better not living it anymore, and I attempted to commit suicide. And
So as a result of an attempt to get help, you ended up in a worse situation.
I did.
Were you depressed or just...
All the above. I was depressed. On top of, being depressed, I was reliving my past.
That was my next question. Was some of the mental
Yeah,
health trauma
all
starting to
all
resurface?
that was resurfacing, and then with an addiction, and it was too much. I had enough, and I just felt like I was just ready to end it all.
Did you reach out to anyone for help when you got to this point, or was it just I know at this point in time this is the decision I'm going to make? I'm ready to end it.
The decision I was ready to make. I didn't want to reach out to nobody. I was just ready to end it all, and that's what I done, and attempted to, and thank the good Lord above. My boyfriend intervened and actually found me in the nick of time, and that was my saving grace.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I say my new life began. I still had the addiction that I was battling, but I had a different view in life, a different view on life, and I was ready. I was ready to actually get the help that I needed.
So you reached out for help a second time.
I did.
What did that look like? Did you go back to? Did you go to another treatment center?
I went to here in Washington, and
did you make them aware that you had become addicted to methadone?
I did. They knew my whole situation, my whole background and everything, and I started. They do an assessment and everything, and they got me in to see a therapist and all that, and I started doing groups, and everything seemed to be, falling into place like I wanted them to, and
did they try to treat you with any other medication-assisted treatment?
Yes, Suboxone this time. And the Suboxone seemed to be helping.
Okay.
And then, I was working on my addiction. But, of course, there's always a devil in every setting that you go to.
Every time.
So, of course, I'm not going to mention any names on this podcast. No. But this is where I met the person for what I'm in trouble. The only felony that I have on my record, this is where I met him at. And anyway, I met him and started dabbling into meth. And, of course, got in trouble with the law. And
was that the first time you had ever dealt?
The first time I'd ever.
Because I know you said cocaine was your drug of choice, so meth.
This is the first time I'd ever in my whole life messed with meth. And it was a short-lived process, thank God. But anyway, I was put on probation, and
so specifically, what did you? And again, let's not any details you want to. But what did you get in trouble for?
What they charged me with is actually I was charged with conspiracy to manufacture a meth lab, and anyway, when I went to court, they dropped it down to a precursor. And basically what I'd done was I went and bought Sudafed and traded it for meth. And, Sudafed is the number one ingredient in meth. That's the one ingredient that they need to actually cook the meth.
Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, if you are like me, have a lot of sinus problems, upper respiratory illnesses, if you remember, at some point you could go to any pharmacy, Walmart, anywhere, and just go pick up some Sudafed on the shelf, purchase it at checkout with your groceries or whatever, and it was just that simple. Now, if you go to purchase Sudafed, most likely you're going to need a prescription, but if you don't, you're still going to have to go to the pharmacist, and you're going to have to show your ID, let them scan it. They track how much Sudafed you've purchased over a given period of time.
And you're only allowed to buy 3 a month, 3 boxes a month.
So, and that is the reason behind it, because as Wendi just told us,
Yes.
Sudafed is the number one active ingredient in meth. So, little educational piece for you. So you were charged with conspiracy to manufacture meth.
Meth lab, yes.
And basically at that point, you weren't trying to cook meth. You were actually trying to get some
I was
for
trying
usage.
to get it for usage, yes.
So how did you get off of meth? Because you said it was a short period that you
it was
dibbled
short.
and dabbled
It was
with
short lived. I dabbled in it. I think I may have done it 2 or 3 times, and that was it. But anyway, I was charged. I was convicted of the precursor, and precursor means the same thing. It's just something I can't remember the exact definition of it, but that's what precursor is. Buying something that's anyway.
Kind of like initiating.
Yeah, and then. Of course, I was put on probation, and at this time, I had gone back to my cocaine habit because meth is just not. It's never. I didn't like it, and so I went back to the cocaine. And of course, I was put on probation for the charges and couldn't give a clean drug screen, so I was referred to my saving grace recovery court.
Well, 2 points there. Thank God you weren't successful in committing suicide.
Yes.
Because you couldn't be here to talk to us and tell us your experience. Second thing is, thank God you had a saving grace.
Yes.
And unlike some of the stories that I've heard from people I've talked to, some people have had an aha moment. Sounds like you had some small ones along the way, which kind of got you to where you wanted to commit to at least trying to get treatment.
Yes.
And they weren't successful, but there was divine intervention.
Yes.
And
That was my aha moment.
That was your aha moment. Because if you hadn't gotten in trouble and you hadn't got that in charge,
I would still be out there using at this time, yes. Most likely. Yes.
So, love Recovery Court. I think it is a great program. Wendi has gone through a lot of the process for Recovery Court. So I'm going to let her talk us into how this process works. Why it was the key to getting her sobriety to be consistent, where before you were kind of lapsing and a few times you wanted to be clean and then it just kind of didn't happen for you.
Yes.
So with Recovery Court, what was the initial steps? You said a probation officer?
Yes, officer. She knew that my only struggle was my addiction. She knew I was a good person, and she basically made the statement that she didn't want to have to lock me up over an addiction. And she knew that, because Recovery Court is not very old here in Beaufort County. I think it's been in session maybe two and a half years, maybe, I think.
Mm-hmm.
3 years, may at the most, and she knew about this program, so she basically told me that instead of locking me up, she was going to refer me to Recovery Court, and I could do with it as I pleased. And
at that time, when you heard that, how did you feel? Like, what?
I was pissed off. I was pissed off. I was like, Recovery Court? Because prior to being, I knew a friend of mine was already in Recovery Court, and I had heard these stories, and I was pissed off about the whole situation. I was like, just let me continue going to, let me continue doing what I'm doing, and I'm in, I'm trying recovery right now, but
let me do it on my own.
I don't want a court system in my business.
Mm-hmm.
But I really didn't have a choice in the matter, and the only reason I even accepted the whole was to stay out of prison, because my sentence is quite lengthy. my suspended sentence is quite lengthy, and I didn't want to go to prison. You know, I've never been to prison before. I've been to jail a few times, and you know, who can't do 120 days standing on their head? But you know,
That kind
I'm
of
talking about,
scared you. Just
yeah, because I'm talking
I'm
about
stuck.
years
Mhm.
here, not days. We're talking about years.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, to hell with it. I'll go to this program, stay out of prison, and I'll do I'll do the necessary things. You know what I'm saying?
Enough to appease them.
And scoot by this program and be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not just going to scoot by in this program. It's not.
No.
It doesn't work that way. So,
when you walk us through the process, like when you first got in it, what was some of the things that you were told, because you were resistant? So what were some of the things that you were told? Okay, like these are your first steps. You have to do this. Like,
well, the first thing, you know, you're talking. The first thing they tell you is you know, 16 to 18 months, okay? This program is 16 to 18 months. Who wants to be in a program for 16 to 18 months? That's a long damn time.
mm-hmm.
I could do my time, you know what I'm saying? I could do my time and then come on out and mind my own business and do what I want to.
Right.
But that was the first thing that kind of, you know, shocked the hell out of me, the length of the whole program.
Mm-hmm.
And it's set up that way for a reason. I'll later find out. But then you have to attend group 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And every other Friday you're in court. So every other week you're in court in front of a judge.
Mm-hmm.
And it was crazy. I was like, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
All of this?
How long is a group session?
3 hours.
So 3 days a week you
3
had to
hours,
go.
yeah, for 3 hours a day, 3 times a week, yes.
So what are you doing when you're in group?
Discussing your addiction, you know, any problems. You know, because group is what they call a safe place. Mm-hmm. You know, and many people that face addiction, it's in their home. It's all around them, and this 3-hour group is the only safe place that they have where they can talk about things that they need to talk about. You know, because my boyfriend was in active addiction with me when I started recovery court, and for many months I was living in a home where there was an active addiction, right? And I was trying to get clean, so this group was the only safe place that I had to where I could talk about how I felt, what I was dealing with, and things like that.
So it sounds like even though initially you were resistant, once you, I guess probably within the first few months or so, started experiencing the group, you started seeing the benefits of going to group.
It took a little bit longer than a couple of months, but I think it took about, I think I had been in recovery court about 3.5, maybe 4 months when I finally started realizing that a sober life is what I wanted, and I started working towards that.
Were you still, at this point, with your boyfriend?
Yes. And once I decided that a sober life is what I wanted, I sat down and I discussed it with him, and I told him that, you know, there was no way I could continue our lives together and try to be in recovery. It wasn't going to work. He was either going to have to be in recovery with me, or we were going to have to go our separate ways. And he actually agreed and quit using, and we are both now sober. So
that is amazing. Yes. That's one thing I didn't know.
Yes.
Okay. I like where that went. So you were not yet what you would call in recovery. You were in treatment.
Yes.
But at that point, you had already made a positive influence on someone else's life.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Once I started, once he started seeing the changes in me, he decided that he wanted to quit using also and live a sober life.
I like that.
Yes.
Okay. Had to highlight that. We still want to talk about the process. So you went through. It's like, oh God, 16 to 18 months. No.
Yeah, and
you did your started
you
group.
start groups, and then there's this book that you have to do to. It's called Escaping Your Prison. And I think that book, I had done this book once before at probation. I can't remember what that was. It Task.
Task.
The Task place at probation has the same book, and it just didn't seem to register like it did in this program. It's, I don't know, they're more strict in recovery court with this book, and that was really my turning point. This book. There's 12 steps in this book that you have to complete. And the first one is acknowledging to be honest. That's step one, is to be honest. And anybody in addiction knows that that's one of the hardest processes of addiction is to be honest. You're a con, you're a lie, you're a thief, you'll do whatever you can to get high, to get your next high, and
you're even dishonest with yourself at some
you're
point.
always dishonest. That's the number one person you're dishonest with anyway, is yourself. And once I learned how to be honest with myself and everyone else around me, it's just like things just kind of fell into place. And I can't remember the last time I had ever been honest with myself. Had ever sat down and looked at myself in the mirror and actually been truthfully honest with myself. And once I was able to do that, it's like, that was my aha moment. That was my aha moment. And I knew that I wanted it. And I began to work hard to get it. And it was all that stupid book. That stupid book. And, and then another one was relationships, going back and apologizing to people that you had wronged. And that was a big step in my recovery, apologizing to the people that I had wronged. It's very hard. And my mother was my biggest one. The biggest one. And, I've never stolen any money or anything from my mother, but my mother has seen me struggle for many years with this addiction. And I just felt like I owed her, because she was always there, no matter what. That unconditional love.
Yes.
And I just felt like I owed her an apology. And she's my biggest supporter. Always has been. And anyway,
that's another. I'm starting in 2 steps or phases. I'm starting to see why this book, I can see it emotionally coming out in you, like the things it had you do actually touched you.
It did. And a lot of these steps are really difficult, and it's not, you can't just put a bunch of bullshit down and think that you're going to pass these steps. It's people that have never dealt with addiction, they have a way of siphoning through your bullshit. And you may think that you're going to be able to bullshit your way through it, but you're not going to be able to. And I wasn't able to, and I was very sincere about this. Once I realized that sober life is what I wanted, I was very sincere about the program and this book, and this stupid ass book. But it has gotten me to where I am today. So,
is there any other particular, I don't know if it comes in chapters or what, but is there any other part of the book that was especially like gut wrenching for you? This was the part, another part that just
setting
had
goals.
That.
Learning how to set goals. Because I've lived my whole life just through
carefree,
and I've never set any goals, never had any goals, never. And that was a difficult process, is learning how to set goals and attain them goals without just give it up and say the hell with it, and doing it step by step and actually attaining. I haven't had driver's license in many, many years. And it was because of my addiction, because I was too busy getting high instead of paying tickets off. And that was one of my goals, was getting my driver's license. And I accomplished that. I got my driver's license. I have a vehicle. It's insured. It's fully legal.
Legit.
Very legit. Another goal was, getting a job, and I worked for many, many months until I realized that I want to go back to school. That's my passion, is to go back to school, and I want to help others like Recovery Court has helped me, and that's my passion. So that, and homeless. So and I can now say that I'm a productive member of society. I am on the board for Agape. I'm a board member for the Zion Shelter and Kitchen. I am also the assistant director there. I've just accomplished so many goals, and it's truly amazing. Truly amazing.
Sounds like this 16, 18-month program, during this process, you've accomplished more doing this than you did
my whole life. Yes. I learned how to be an adult in this program. Is what I can say. I finally grew up, and I learned how to become an adult.
Yeah, it backtracked you to some of the maturing process that you missed as a youth, and it slowly took you through that process.
17. I've had 17 months. Is how long I've been in this program. 17 months.
And I'm trying not to jump ahead and say this, but tell me the status of your participation in Recovery Court right now.
I'm done. I have finished Recovery Court, and I will graduate June 16th.
Yes.
So I made it. And I was very skeptical in the beginning if I was going to make it through this long journey. But here I am.
Yes.
Here I am.
You are
sober, clean, and substance-free.
And a productive member of society.
Yes.
That is the best part. I absolutely love it. So, for anybody else that is out here suffering, struggling, been trying different treatments, they hadn't worked, would you suggest, if they're able to get involved with Recovery Court, would you suggest this for anyone else?
I would highly suggest Recovery Court. Sure would.
So a few things just to reiterate what worked for you with the Recovery Court process.
I think the accountability is what helped me the most. Being accountable for my actions.
What about the peer support, the groups, things like that?
Yeah, knowing that there are other people that are going through the same struggles that you go through really helped out a lot. And that I think that was the biggest thing for me, was knowing that there were other people out there that were struggling like I was. They didn't have the same story, but were struggling through the same substance abuse like I was.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your recovery journey with us. We are certainly proud of you.
Thank you.
Happy to see where you are now. I will be there June 16th.
I'll be
cheering you on.
It.
A couple of things that just want to highlight for anyone who is out here struggling. Got a couple of things. Wanted to advise you that outside of just your outpatient treatment, there are resources for you if you have that type of addiction where you're not yet ready to stop your substance use. We want to always emphasize harm reduction. So, Beaufort County Health Department has a program called Prevention Point that if you are interested, they can connect you with a peer support specialist. If you are using opioids, they have Narcan. It is free. You can come in. It's an anonymous, confidential program. There are 2 types of Narcan that you can use. It'll soon be over the counter. I don't know the price, but again, at Beaufort County Health Department, you can reach out to Abigail Bradley at Prevention Point, and she can give you some free Narcan. They also have fentanyl test strips and xylazine test strips that you can receive from Abigail. So again, we want everyone out here to be safe. That is the point of this. We want to break the stigma that's keeping you from going to get the treatment that you need, to keep you from going to get the life-saving medicine that you can get for free. Reach out. If you need help, we can refer you. Information is in the description. And that's a wrap. Wendi, again, you have been a great guest. Thank you so much. See y'all later. Thank you all for joining us for this episode of Riverfront Talks, Substance Matters. If you are from the Beaufort County area and know someone who is suffering from mental health and substance use disorder and may be looking for resources, my information is below in the description. We also would like your feedback to gather input about today's episode. Please also complete the short survey listed in the description. A special thank you to our sponsors, ECU Health Beaufort Hospital and KB Reynolds Charitable Trust. Like, share, and subscribe. See you later.